Alderperson Donohue.
First of all, I have thoughts on this. The first thing I want to do is just thank all the people who participated, who've come here, who have contacted us, who have written us, both pro and anti. We somehow think that because there's protest and because people are upset or angry or dismayed or disbelieving, that somehow that's wrong. And I will just submit that that is the absolute mark of a democracy and is an incredibly important way that we show that our community is vibrant. One of the speakers, the public speakers at the last public forum indicated that people who were opposed to the project were, these are just some of the things I wrote down, they were selfish, intimidating, uncontrollable, fear-mongering. And I would just suggest to you that it's exactly the opposite, that people who care enough to stand up and talk about what they believe in, to contact their elected officials, that's what makes the democracy run, and it's a good thing on both sides, both pro and anti. So I want to think, just a variation on an old t-shirt motto, well-behaved people seldom make history. And so I think that we need to keep that in mind, and I really appreciate all the input that we've received. 2, I think we can vote in favor of this proposal while still acknowledging that the loss of these 247 acres is a deep, deep, deep loss to our world, to the things that we treasure, to the things that make our lives worthwhile. This land will be gone. There'll be a nice golf course there, I have no doubt. Not too many people are going to get there. We've negotiated the fact that you can still walk along the water's edge and see. But we need to acknowledge that it will be gone. Again, to paraphrase, I'm dating myself, one of my favorite songwriters, Joni Mitchell, you pave paradise, you put up a parking lot or a golf course. And it's just too bad. So for those who will vote yes on this, I think you can vote yes, but acknowledge it's too bad that this gorgeous, gorgeous land and its structure are gone forever. It's pretty sad. But my main objection, sorry, the microphones are a little bizarre tonight. So I started thinking to myself, I know that townships can't annex property in cities and such, but I always find that if I put myself in the other person's position, sometimes that helps me kind of figure out what the issues are. And I thought, what if the town of Wilson could just come on in and take Memorial Hospital in? Let's just imagine what that might be like. A place that's pretty far away from us can come in and grab the land and take it away from us. Now, they can't do that. But that's exactly what we're doing to the town of Wilson, and that's really what I'm objecting to. I want to reemphasize, I think we all know the Kohler company never submitted a completed application to the town board. The town of Wilson has had no chance to vote on this. That is astonishing to me, and I think casts a long, deep, hard shadow over the process that we're going through now. Now, there are some annexations that are just fine. I know Director Beeble stood up, and now we have 2 annexation maps, although I'm going to make a request for a zoning map as well, because that's even more colorful. It is true that we grow by annexations, and we have done that over the years. Again, you'll note from the Department of Administration letter, there was very strong encouragement for some cooperation in terms of cleaning up our borders, which, as you can see, are pretty odd. But some annexations are really organic. We're going to annex business property that wants to come into the city because they need water, or they need this, or they need that. And the clear economic package for the city is undeniable. Those kinds of annexations do make sense. But we don't grow just through annexations. And I think Administrator Hoffman's presentation tonight shows that our city is growing. We are growing in terms of property assessments, development. This is a really, I think everybody in the room can agree, this is a really good place to be living these days. And whether or not there's a third championship golf course in the city, even though it won't be in the city, I think we can all agree that Sheboygan is still going to be a growing place. Cities grow through density as well as expansion. We are a city. We are not a rural area. We are not an agricultural area. We are a city. I don't know about you, I am thrilled that these apartment buildings are going in downtown, that we're going to get people in our downtown, that we're going to become dense, that we might actually have, people might actually have trouble finding a place to park. Can you imagine that in Sheboygan? Talk about growing up in Sheboygan. Yeah, well, when I look at that map, all I can think of is that this annexation is like an appendix. You know, it's part of your body, it's kind of down in a weird place, it doesn't do anything for you, and it can cause a lot of trouble. Now, I do not doubt that there will be some economic benefit to the city from this annexation. I think it's going to take a while. The golf course builds no houses, it attracts no families, it doesn't attract schools. I'm sure it'll be a lovely golf course, but it's a golf course. It is not a place that by itself, intrinsically, is going to make the city grow. The water line, on the other hand, is a big deal. And that water line is a really good idea. And I would say in 20 to 40 years, this annexation, if it is approved, is at least one way of looping that water system and allowing the city to grow. But I think it's a long time coming, and it's come in a pretty dismal process. The economic benefit, again, I am sure it is there. I personally hold myself responsible for not insisting on seeing the data upon which those economic projections were based. If you looked at the report, 6 pages, 2 glossy pages on front and back, and then in the middle, there were certain representations about the number of jobs, the room tax, and number of visits, and so forth. And that may all be true, and it may not, but we don't know. And I, among others, should have been smart enough to say, show us your data, just so we can really be sure of the economic benefit. I do think that we are going to be paying a lot of lawyers a lot of money over a long period of time. Eventually, I think this will be of an economic benefit to the city, but at what cost? And as I weigh those costs, I just can't see it. And so my sense is everything's kind of cast in stone at this point, but I would urge my fellow alders to just consider the negative pieces of this, as well as the, gee, we're going to have another great Kohler golf course in the area.
Next will be Alderperson Trester.
I don't have any prepared speech or letters to read to you, but I am going to say this because I think we need to be heard. Over the last few weeks, I've received 120 phone calls. Now, I know my counterpart didn't get that many because the people that called me told me they didn't call him. 120 people in the last few weeks called to express their opinions on this. We heard the Sheboygan County Economic Development Board, we heard from the people of Wilson, but we haven't heard from the people of Sheboygan. And I can tell you that of the 120 phone calls from my constituents, I'm not counting the ones that live in the city who have all them in other places, 120 people called me and said, do not vote in favor of this annexation. And actually 6 people did call and say I should. I also got 20 phone calls from the town of Wilson. But some of you would say disregard the people of the town of Wilson because they're not your constituents. I have spent my entire life working and listening to people. First as a family minister and then as a hospice chaplain. And I've got to tell you, I took this job as alderman and was elected in this last election as alderperson so that I could be the voice of the people in my district. And so tonight, I cast their ballot on this annexation. And I say, no, I will not vote in favor of it because they don't want it. And they are not being represented here. And the Department of Administration says this is in the best interest of the public. I would like the names of the public that the Department of Administration interviewed to find out really whose interest this really was, because it is in the interest of big money and not the people.